In this episode today, Tulsi Gabbard is not letting up. She continues to expose the truth about Obama to the American people, and CNN felt it was a good idea to interview migrants who are located in Alligator Alcatraz detention facility. I don't think it went well for them, but we're going to get to these stories and more in this video, show you what both sides are saying, and give you the bottom line.
So with the help of 3D models and the testimony of detainees, we're getting a sense of what life is like for the migrants there. Check out this investigation from CNN's Priscilla Alvarez.
This is sad, hopeless. It's a type of torture.
These are the stories of migrants held at Alligator Alcatraz, a new detention facility deep in the Florida Everglades. Using a plan of the site shown during President Trump's visit and photos from media tours and social media, CNN created a 3D model to take you inside the site, where hundreds of immigrant detainees are being held. Here are the giant tents where people report being crammed into cells made of chain link fence, packed with bunk beds. CNN spoke with 8 detainees to hear firsthand accounts of what conditions are like on the inside. Some asked not to be named for fear of retribution.
Because of the way that we have been treated, it has been a very terrible experience.
Gonzalo Almanza Valdez was detained by ICE when he showed up for a meeting with his probation officer.
Bottom line up front, I have zero sympathy for these people. If you guys read the fine print that was on the screen, it says he has a criminal record. So no shocker what CNN is trying to accomplish here, which is why we have Ground News here on the screen. If you guys want to follow along, just go to ground.news/Devore. We use Ground News so you could get the full picture of what's being reported and think for yourself. And the bottom line here up front is that people are going to be upset at Alligator Alcatraz. They have no idea what's about to happen because according to Ground News here, new FEMA grant program gives states $600 million to build migrant detention centers. Oh yeah, people are going to be in a world of hurt. Now, let's circle back on what else is happening in Alligator Alcatraz.
Officer.
32 people per cell, or per cage, really, because this is a cage. It's a metal cage strapped in with zip ties.
3 open toilets are shared by dozens of men who say there's no running water or sewage system. Roger Moreno, who has lived in the U.S. for more than 30 years, told CNN the rain makes it worse.
The toilets, when it rains, they overflow, and the cells we're in fill up with sewage.
Every time it does rain and storm, the toilets clog up.
Detainees told CNN the lights are kept on 24 hours a day.
We can't sleep. I have to personally put a rag on top of my head to at least try to take a nap because the lights are so bright. There's 24 LED lights in the roof, and it's like shining bright.
Juan Palma Martinez has lived in the U.S. for more than 20 years and was also picked up by ICE at a routine meeting with his probation officer.
I no longer know when it's daytime or when it's nighttime. I don't sleep. It's affecting me mentally and physically.
Okay, so far I didn't hear any red flags from what's happening at that detention facility. But if we want to know more about these detention facilities that are going to start popping up around the country, here's some important details that Ground News is showing us here. They say that it's going to cost $450 million annually. This is according to Department of Homeland Security officials. And according to FEMA, the program will relieve overcrowding at short-term holding facilities. And ICE reported more than 56,000 migrants have been in custody as of June, signaling a trend towards detention capacity expansion. So obviously logistics plays a huge part in that. Now, we use Ground News because, again, you got to get the right information. I'm showing you this CNN segment because you could tell how they want people to feel about these facilities. But as always, you got to do your own research, and Ground News will help you do that. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devore, or you could download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devore, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
The tents aren't sealed. You can see cracks in this image. And at the height of the hot Florida summer, that means the insects are relentless.
Yesterday, the air conditioning went out. We had the whole morning without air conditioning. Lots of mosquitoes came in because they get in from all sides.
Multiple detainees say they don't get enough food, though they're served 3 meals a day, and that water is limited.
scan our bracelets, we go into the food hall. The food is very terrible here. Very, very, very small portions. People are having a hard time living here because like they're starving. Probably like a quarter cup of rice.
We've eaten as late as 10 at night. The food at night is cold too. There's never a hot meal.
Now, as I'm continuing to talk about this, you know, I think I'm leaving you guys the impression that I could care less, right? I served in the military. You want to talk about cold food? I mean, that's a normal thing. Not even 3 meals a day. Usually it was 2 meals a day. So I'm not really sympathetic to their complaints in that regard, especially when a lot of these people have criminal records. They're in the country unlawfully. What do you want me to do? Like, I respect the individual who does it the right way. They should be rewarded. But if you refused after 20 years to get your stuff in order, I'm sorry, I don't feel bad. I just don't. Because it's your decision. It's your responsibility. Nobody else's.
Showers are located in a separate tent, and opportunities to shower there are scarce, according to the detainees we spoke with.
All the showers are connected to the same water source. There's barely any water pressure. So we have to like literally put ourselves on the wall right next to the water drainage so we can at least get hit with water.
They follow you when you're walking to the shower with your hands on your head, as if you were a prisoner. The water's very hot, very hot. They don't give you enough time. Mosquitoes are biting you in the shower. There are more mosquitoes than water.
The only line to the outside world are phones set up in the cells.
Nobody here has been able to see a loved one. Nobody has been able to see a lawyer here. Nobody has. It sucks. It sucks. There's no physical contact with the outside world other than these phone calls. It's not really more about me. It's about not being able to see my son. He's 6. He's about to turn 7 in November. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to see him for his birthday.
Okay, so number one, 2 things are true. It's an unfortunate situation for his son. But guess what? His son has to experience the sins of his father. He's the one in this country unlawfully. He's the one that committed crimes. And he also did not take advantage of the opportunity President Trump gave him, which leads me to point number 2, self-deportation. Why are we not talking about that? At least 1 million migrants have already self-deported, according to reports. So why didn't these individuals do that? I guess they thought they were going to be able to get by, which leads me to point number 3. This is a cakewalk in compared to what other countries would do to people like you and me if we crossed their border illegally. Now, let's go to our next story, and this is about Tulsi Gabbard continuing to expose the cold, hard truth about Obama to the American people. She was on Fox News earlier today. Here's what she had to say.
They're doing the exact same thing that people like Senator Warner are doing. He was the head of the Intelligence Committee at the time. They would have to admit and actually address the details of their complicity in this or their absolute failure in conducting the most basic responsibilities of, again, asking, where is this intelligence coming from? What are the sources? What proof do you have of these of this high confidence assessment? Remember, John Brennan and James Clapper at the time assessed, and James Comey, with high confidence that Russia aspired to help Donald Trump win the election in 2016, when there was no credible intelligence that actually reported that. So President Obama's very carefully worded response that came from his office, again, deflects away from addressing any of the truth that was revealed. Right. Senator Warner refuses to speak the truth about how one of our whistleblowers came forward and approached his office numerous times about what had actually occurred, how he wouldn't go along with this fake intelligence manufactured report, was sidelined because of it. And guess what? Senator Warner's office wouldn't even give the whistleblower an email address to send his evidence of this, the treasonous conspiracy that we have now released to the American people. So the complicity, the deflection, and the silence of politicians, of the mainstream media, and of those directly implicated into this speaks volumes.
Okay, so that was Tulsi Gabbard blasting Obama and people like Brennan Clapper and Comey for the 2016 Russia hoax. She is not letting up. She's calling out their gaslighting and weak response to that press conference earlier this week. And she's really just exposing them for what she would call their treasonous conspiracy. Now, it is true that declassified documents showed that there was no credible intel that backed up the claim that Russia helped President Trump win the 2016 election. I know it, you know it. We already knew all that, but she did provide the documents. And in fact, what it shows is that it was a clear, deep state hit job against President Trump. So in the end, conservatives like me, I want accountability. I want prosecutions, not excuses from the Department of Justice. Tulsi has done her part. Will Pam Bondi do her part? That's what I want to see, because we don't want future hoaxes continuing to happen in politics. And really, there are more important things that our government officials should be focused on, like, I don't know, serving the American people. Now, here's Charlie Kirk asking her a very important question. Take a listen.
Director Gabbard, thank you for your clarity, your moral clarity on this, and for your courage to come out with this super quick. Can you comment also on the other parts of the intel networks that they might have been abusing against President Trump? Because I believe this is just the start, not the end, of how they abused the intel agencies against the American people. Where else are you looking? And we're only 6 months into this term. I can't imagine what else you might discover.
When you look, Charlie, at everything that happened in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, what occurred in the years after with multiple investigations from Mueller and others, there are a lot of questions that remain unanswered. We are continuing in our core mission, our pursuit of the truth and bringing transparency and accountability. So we're looking forward to continuing down this path.
See, listening to Tulsi Gabbard, it has led me to the realization on something about all this. Maybe the expectation we should not have is seeing Obama and his officials thrown in prison. I'm not too sure the Trump administration is going to be able to swing that. That might be an unreasonable expectation. I think the better expectation here, and I think Tulsi Gabbard has met that expectation, is just by putting the information out there, letting the American people decide for themselves. Even if it doesn't lead to a prosecution, what we can't say is the Trump administration did not shed light on what actually happened, because we know the mainstream media went into full cover mode during that time in order to protect Hillary Clinton and Democrats, because they hated President Trump too. Now, speaking of the media, here's what Tulsi Gabbard had to say.
I look back at, the Iraq WMD, manufactured false intelligence to support an action to go to war in another country. And I went back and looked at the mainstream media's complicity in that, and how many, did they ever admit that they were wrong, that they failed as journalists? Really, they didn't. They gave, a couple of them gave some lame excuses, but there's a lot of parallels here for us to take a step back and look at, again, the magnitude of what has been revealed and why it's important to every American, not just Democrats or Republicans, but it really has to do with the foundational principles of our democratic republic and the integrity of that. That is the thing that I think a lot of the mainstream media folks, again, have refused to cover at all, or are failing to focus on.
Mainstream media will say exactly what Tulsi Gabbard just said, but they will flip it around and attack President Trump with that type of mindset, meaning he is the threat to our democratic republic. And the problem here that mainstream media has for themselves is they have zero credibility. They've thrown all their ethics and morals out the window, all for one man. Think about what your legacy would be if you dedicated your life to hating one person and every decision you make was about this one person. What would people think of you for the next 30 years if that's what your life was all about? That's how I see the mainstream media. They had a good run for a very long time, but they have decided to destroy their own industry, all for President Trump. I find that to be probably the most stupid decision they've ever made. All right, so on to our next story. And now we're talking about President Trump's approval rating and Democrats continuing to make a fool of themselves. Why are these two things related? Well, because Democrats want us to believe that Trump's approval rating with independents is a red flag and we're going to lose the midterms. However, the flip side to that is President Trump has had some historic wins, and it's just been 6 months into his presidency. If we all need a reminder, take a listen to this.
You could credibly argue that no modern president has had a more consequential first 6 months in office. I'm not putting a value judgment on the word consequential, but it's been very consequential. Donald Trump is right about that. He's been busy securing a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, pushing $4.5 trillion in tax cuts through. Illegal border crossings are at a record low. Inflation is lower than it was at the start of the year. Gas prices are actually affordable, and the stock markets continue to look up. It's all those things Americans wanted, right? What he campaigned on.
Again, it cannot be overstated. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. How many people in government can actually say that? Think about it for a second. Maybe they do 10% of what they say they're going to do, right? He's done at least 80% of the things he said he was going to do. Now, the flip side to this is what CNN is focusing on, and that is President Trump's approval rating with independents. Take a listen.
And his new poll numbers show that he is not as invincible as he once was. Trump's approval has dropped to the lowest of his second term, and perhaps most notably an all-time low of either term among independents. They're a big reason why he won the presidency again. And also notable, he's starting to take hits from the very people who got him elected. That includes MAGA stars who are critical and skeptical of the Epstein excuses. Elon Musk, who continues to attack the administration's handling of this, and Rupert Murdoch, whose paper, The Wall Street Journal, has broken several key stories shining light on this relationship between Trump and Epstein.
Okay, well, number one, we already know Trump and Epstein had a relationship, so no story there, all right? Number two, President Trump taking hits from people in the MAGA world is really overstated. What I mean by that is if anyone has done any damage, it was Pam Bondi when she overpromised and underdelivered, okay? That right there was the biggest single failure in all of this, okay? Now, number three, two things could be true at the same time. We support President Trump. We want him to win. And it's also true that if we don't agree with something, that we're going to say something about it. Okay? I don't see anything wrong with that. In fact, I think that's a mark of intelligence and that people can think for themselves. Now, what's interesting is if you compare the wins from President Trump and you see what CNN is saying about his approval rating with independents, I guess independents are going to have to decide. Do they want winning when it comes with President Trump and they know what they're going to get? Or are they going to put their trust in Democrats like this?
I feel disrespected by what some of the things they're doing for the American people. I say you listen to them speak, and it's like they pray in church on Sunday, and they talk about praying in church on Sunday, and then they prey on people the rest of the week, taking away health care, taking away food for our children, taking away money for education, and saying they have to save that money so they can give tax breaks to the richest people.
Yeah, so imagine that. That's Democrats' pitch to independents. I am not convinced independents will vote for that. Because what Democrats are saying versus what's actually happening is not lining up. They did the same thing last year and during the first Trump administration. Remember, at the beginning of the year, they said we would be in a recession by now. Remember, they said that all Social Security offices would close down. And now they're saying so many people are going to get kicked off healthcare. The point being here is what they say is not what's actually happening. And I don't think independents are going to eat that up because they were already burned before when it came to Democrats and their gaslighting in regards to inflation and the border. And I think people will remember that when it comes down to the midterms. Now, circling back on what some Democrats are trying to do in response to this approval rating, they claim this Epstein situation has caused President Trump to lose his base. There's only one problem. The numbers just don't support that.
He won't be able to convince his base that this is a transparent investigation at all. Like, I don't know what it would take for them to believe that there's no cover up. I mean, you've convinced a lot of these people. Part of your whole spiel is that the government isn't to be trusted. And then you're asking these same group of people to suddenly trust that this was all on the up and up. There is no list, that everything is as it appears, and they're just not going to buy it. And what's always interesting to me is like what it takes people to get off the Trump train. It's not the xenophobia. It's not the racism. It's not the bigotry. It is this.
But are they off the Trump train? I mean, I think this is the part of what Charlotte is saying that I'm not so sure. Because I think that they really don't want to be off the Trump train. They want to be on the Trump train. They just want Trump to get in line with them on this issue.
I think that's exactly right, Abby. Look, I think for Trump, it does feel a little bit like the lady doth protest a little too much, right? But when it comes to his approval rating with Republicans, it's basically as solid as it ever was. You know, you put it up on the graphic before. Everyone is dissatisfied with the amount of information that's been released so far with concern to the Epstein files. Everyone thinks that there's something more going on there. But then making that leap to all of a sudden that his base is moving away from him, at least at this particular point in the polling data, we're not seeing it.
Okay, so that's Jemele Hill once again showing you how stupid some Democrats are when it comes to commentating on politics, unfortunately, because she's just filled with hate when it comes to President Trump. And so I would never believe anything that she says. Now, let's get to the matter at hand. No, President Trump is not going to lose his base unless, barring some catastrophic bombshell that comes out. I just don't see that happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I said it earlier. Conservatives think for themselves. Okay, they'll criticize the administration like I have, but that doesn't mean I want the president to fail or be removed from office. I want him to win, because if he's winning, the American people are winning, and that's what's most important. And I actually would say for Democrats, what's most important for them is to continue to fight against President Trump instead of fighting for the American people. Now, let's get your reaction in the comment section below to these stories. Listen, the approval rating with independents, I don't think that's really a concern right now. I think you have to chalk that up to, one, they're not really doing their research at this moment in time because there is no election at this time. Number two, if they have to decide between what President Trump has accomplished in his first 6 months and what Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of them continue to pitch, I think they're going to go with Trump or sit it out. So let me know if you guys agree with that. Now, what about this situation with Tulsi Gabbard, how she continues to make the case? Will Pam Bondi do something about this? Let me know if you believe people will be brought to justice, or should the expectation be keep releasing information? Let me know in the comment section. Then Alligator Alcatraz. What do you think about these sob stores? Do you feel bad for them? Do you think something is being done wrong? Let me know your thoughts about everything in the comment section below. Now, in our next video, another Democrat scam has been exposed. A nonprofit by the name of Fire Aid, who received donations from celebrities for the California wildfire victims back in January. Come to find out, they haven't really paid any money to these victims. And of course, Gavin Newsom has nothing to say. So if you guys are interested in that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.